very very rudely to you. Basically, to put bluntly, the channel behaviors will be very rude if you are moving up in the frequency carrier. So that should also be taken care of. So for example, to give you an idea, so for example, if you're operating at 2.4 gigahertz and 30 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz will be having a higher wavelength compared to 30 gigahertz, because wavelength and the frequency are inversely proportional. If you take 30 gigahertz, obviously it will have a very less wavelength, and usually certain particles in the atmosphere which is of this comparable size with that of the wavelength. Okay, there will be certain particles which will be comparable to the wavelength of 30 gigahertz. Okay, and they could able to cause problems to the signal, and that same particle will not be causing problems when you are transmitting with 2.4 gigahertz, because it is of a higher wavelength. It is not of the comparable wavelength. Okay, so the particles whose size is comparable to the wavelength of 30 gigahertz may not be a problem for the signal which is being transmitted with 2.4 gigahertz frequency. However, it causes a lot of problem or a lot of distortions, okay, when this 30 gigahertz frequency based signal is being transmitted, because those particles in the atmosphere are of the comparable wavelength, which affects the quality of the signal. That's what I'm saying. The main advantage when you are going up in the spectrum, when you're moving in the higher end of the spectrum, you will be gaining more spectral bandwidth. However, the channel will be more distortions will be introduced. To put in this way, more distortions will be introduced, and those distortions you should be that should be taken care of using the physical layer techniques. That is why with the improvement in the generation of communications, obviously there will be a revolutionary there will be introduction of revolutionary techniques such as OFDMA, which takes care of the frequency selective fading. Okay, similarly MIMO, massive MIMO, all these are all mainly to counteract the channel distortions. Now, for next half an hour or around 20 minutes, we will be seeing about some features or the specifications and use cases of this fifth generation communications. But before that, this is the kind of diagram which you would see, especially in a IMTA document. IMTA means fourth generation document, which speaks about the key features. So what they have proposed is, they have proposed that the IMTA are the mobile systems that include the new capabilities which will go beyond IMT 2000. That is what is the requirement which they have issued when they were giving the features of a fourth generation systems. Basically, you can see in this diagram, you can see that probably enhanced IMT 2000. IMT 2000 is third generation. IMT enhanced IMT 2000 is mainly, you can see it is of about 3.5 generation, and whatever this is beyond IMT 2000, it is beyond 3G, might be fourth generation. While introducing the fourth generation, this is what is the pictorial representation they have, and the picture deals with, in the y-axis it is of mobility, and the x-axis it speaks about the data rates, basically peak useful data rate, which means that you can see that enhanced IMT 2000 so should able to support at least, if you can see, around 10 Mbps under high mobility conditions. That is what you can infer from this figure. 10 Mbps around under high mobility conditions, and still if it is, and then if you can see that if it needs to, if a higher data rate needs to be supported, then obviously the mobility conditions should be relaxed, because if you can see that of the order of say 50 to 80 Mbps, obviously high speed train or a high speed transport, okay, transport services, when you are there inside that high speed trains or something, obviously you would see that you could not able to access that much of data rate. Obviously under low mobility conditions, obviously it should be in a position to satisfy a bit more data rate, which is of the order of 80 Mbps. But you can see that under high mobility conditions, at least it was proposed, especially for fourth generation systems, it was proposed to satisfy at least 10 Mbps requirements. This is towards beyond 3G, which means that they were aiming for enhanced peak data rate to support wide range of services. It is like they have aimed for 100 Mbps for high mobility situation and 1 Gbps for low mobility situation. This is beyond 3G, or which has been proposed for fourth generation communication. That is what, for comparison sake, I am giving it to you, so that when I'm introducing the specs for 5G, it will be even more clear. And you can see that for peak data rate and peak spectral efficiency, these are all the specifications in terms of LTE advanced systems that you might be knowing now. It is LTE advanced is now a 4G systems. And for uplink scenario and downlink scenario, okay, IMTA, this corresponds to the requirements. This is the requirement. And you can see that this LTE-A, which is a standard which made the requirements, obviously it met the requirements of 1 Gbps, especially in the uplink scenario, and the downlink scenario, it was around 500 Mbps data rate requirement was satisfied by this LTE advanced systems. And in IMTA, the requirements was issued as 15 bps bits per seconds per hertz. Spectral efficiency unit is how efficiently you are communicating over the given spectrum. So it is data rate divided by the bandwidth. That is what the unit is, bits per seconds per hertz. So the requirement was given as 15 Mbps, and you can see that around 30 Mbps is being satisfied. It exceeds the requirements, as well as 6.75 beats per seconds per hertz. It exceeds the requirements, which satisfied 15 bits per seconds per hertz. Okay, this release 8 is what is nothing but 3.9 G. You can see some requirements are met, or some requirements were not met. IMTA requirements, you can see that. That is why it was not strictly called as 4th generation. It was called as 3.9 G. Okay, so and then as I have mentioned, this spectral efficiency and all, if you see the report now, it will be very interesting. I have cited this report. They will give the definition for these kind of these terminologies. Basically, we will think, okay, data rate divided by bandwidth is what spectral efficiency, but it is not so. The peak spectral efficiency here, they are saying highest theoretical data rate. Obviously, it should be normalized by bandwidth. If you are saying spectral efficiency, it should be assignable to a single mobile station, assuming error-free conditions, when all the available radio resources are utilized for the particular link. See, there are so many information which is being conveyed when they are giving a specification for peak spectral efficiency. Peak spectral efficiency, they are giving it as a requirement or a number which they are giving based on this assumption. Means they are calculating the peak spectral efficiency, okay, for a single mobile station, assuming that whatever being transmitted to the mobile station, it is being received without any errors. Whatever the bits which has been, bit informations or the data bits which has been communicated has been received without any errors. Okay, under these conditions, also under the availability of all the radio resources, means all the frequency slots, all the time slots. Okay, under the availability of all the, are assigning all the frequency resources and time resources to that single mobile station, how much maximum it could able to support. That is what it represents, a peak data rate or peak spectral efficiency. Okay, that is how they are defining it. At least it should satisfy this requirement of 1 Gbps or the peak spectral efficiency of 15 bits per seconds per hertz in the uplink and 6.75